I'm very, very pleased you're all here. I really wasn't expecting so many people to turn up. I know 100 people said on Facebook they're coming, but I never believe what I read on Facebook. So I'm glad. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Yeah, in case you're wondering, I'm not the only queer person in this room. You're surrounded.
No pun intended.
I'm guessing most of you might or might not be. Again, we're not putting any labels on anyone. My name is Leow Yangfa. I am a social worker. I'm not a writer, but I have sort of edited a book. Some of them are over there. For those of you who may or may not know, today is Idaho. We're not in a red state. It stands for the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia. Technically, it should be Idaho Bit, but it sounds like a Peter Jackson film, so we just say that. Okay, so International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, 17 May 1990 was the very day the World Health Organization actually declassified homosexuality from its list of diseases. Wonderful thing, isn't it? But here in Singapore, obviously, we still have institutionalized homophobia. So it's still important we commemorate a special day like this. And before I forget, I do need to say my thank yous. My biggest thank yous need to go to the contributors of this book. The 21 incredible people who have shared with me, and hopefully with all of you, their very personal stories. Through them, they have taught me what is courage, what is dignity, what is faith, what is love. I mean, it's incredible. I believe some of them are here, they would prefer to remain anonymous. I just want a round of applause for them. So, and of course, I have, apart from the 21 story contributors, I have 4 other, what I call the essay contributors as well. Reverend Yap is here. Reverend Yap, thank you. Probably one of the most LGBT affirming and friendly Christian leaders in Singapore. I mean,
bravo.
Yes, thank you. So I've been meeting him and hearing his story, and for him to write it down and share it with us in the book, that was incredibly affirming for me as well. And Singapore being Singapore is such a small place. I realized that he lives next block to my parents and has been for the past 30 years. So yeah, and of course we have Ms. Leona Low right here as well. Thank you. And she shares a very personal story. You'll hear more from her later on. The 2 other essay contributors, Rema Marti and Siu Kam Hong, and they can't be here tonight, but again, it was incredible to have them on board as well. Big thanks also to
BooksActually.
Kenny! I don't think you know who Kenny is. He's the guy with the funky hair. He is bookstore owner, publisher, and really hardworking person. I mean, working with him for the past year is, again, just, yeah, nice. And I want to thank him for hosting us here as well. This is one of the showrooms you have, the bookstore.
It's basically office and obviously it's storage. So.
Nice place, isn't it? Yeah. Some my friends were saying they're not too distracted by the things that they're selling here. No, come and buy the books as well. Okay, and of course, wonderful team of people there. So Kenny, the boss, and of course the designers, Sarah and Alison, right? Okay, right. One half of Sarah is schooling the designers responsible for the wonderful covers. And I am so honored to have not 1 but 2 book covers. I know, yeah. Yeah, well, is that the way they arranged it as well. Yes, so back to why we're here. I do promise to stop talking at some point, because I know we want to get the reading started. I'm a gay man, and I do have a gay agenda. It's in that book. It's in that book. And in that book, well, it gives us a glimpse into what homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia means to very real, ordinary people in Singapore. But I want to start from the very beginning, and I don't actually have a lot to say, but I want to read something. And this is something that is quite quite poignant for me to read actually. It's actually a note. It's a Facebook note. And I'll just get started. The title is When Human Life Fails. It's dated Sunday, 8th of March 2009 at 2:15 p.m. This is how it starts. In 2009 alone, I've already heard of the suicides of 2 people, both of whom are friends of friends. Too close for comfort? It's a troubling sign that human life is failing in the most terminal way. Suicide is a taboo topic. When discussed, it's always with hushed whispers. There's always a note of scandal when suicide is mentioned. But if those who suffer from suicidal tendencies are to be helped, this topic should be removed from taboo. The number of suicide is large and increasing in a world that's growing more hostile and unpredictable. It's sobering to think that someone you love and know personally could be struggling with the despair that leads to taking one's own life. Simply saying, snap out of it, is not the be-all and all solution. Sometimes, people who take their own lives are not usually cool and rational about it. Most of the people who attempt suicide every year do not so much choose death as stumble down into it from a steep slope of despair. In Singapore, suicide is a significant non-medical cause of death. Singapore sees many cases of suicide each year. Between 2000 and 2004, 1,700 people killed themselves. In this small island nation, that's a big number. Of special mention is suicide as a significant threat to young people who have discovered that they have homosexual feelings. While there are no conclusive statistics on the phenomenon, some studies suggest a high rate of suicide attempts among young people with same-sex attractions. These are not people sticking their fists in the face of God. These are children who look in their own faces and hate what they see. The heart asks, why? But the answer is blowing in the wind. Young people kill themselves mainly for one reason. They cannot believe their lives are precious enough to make them worth living. Despair, depression, hopelessness, self-loathing, these are the killers. The most urgent problem is not the morality of suicide, but the spiritual and mental despair that drags people down to it. When society is open and honest about pain and suffering, it can then confront in love even the most difficult of human crises and failures, suicide. Loved ones who have died at their own hands, we can safely trust to our gracious God. Loved ones whose spirits are now even slipping so silently towards death, these are our burden. This was written by Kelvin Jason Chua. Less than 2 days after he wrote this, he killed himself. And I had a Facebook chat with him after I read that note. 3 days later, I wrote in my journal, 11 March 2009, Wednesday night. Sydney, my journal. I'm sitting alone in a flat in Sydney, I was on holiday. After a long day doing touristy stuff, I suddenly have a strange feeling that perhaps I should switch to my StarHub SIM card and check for messages. I had an odd feeling. Worried that someone at home might be texting me about emergency. I have 2 text messages, not from family members, but from Richard and Brian, friends of mine, about Kelvin Chua. He has died, rather unexpectedly. Immediate exchanges with Brian revealed that it could have been suicide. We don't know. Flashbacks to the Facebook exchange with Kelvin on Sunday afternoon when I read his Facebook note, posting about how 2 of his friends had died by suicide and what I said to him afterwards. Feelings of sadness, guilt, regret, and disappointment. Such an intelligent young man full of promise. Why wasn't I able to stop him? How would things have been different if I had been in Singapore? I responded to his message. Why couldn't I do anything? Have I been around? Would I have called him? Why didn't I call him, even though I was overseas? If I'd done all that, would he still have killed himself? Why did he do it? Why? So that's how it all began. 4 years and 2 months and maybe a week ago, I started to think about what and it was a very selfish act, what I could do to stop feeling so helpless about being a social worker, being a gay man, and knowing that somebody, a young gay man, had killed himself, and I couldn't do a thing to stop him. So that's where I started to talk to people and get some ideas, and so became a collection of stories. Some of you here may have personal experience of suicide, of self-harm in your own lives, people around you, personal stories yourself. Maybe just as a preparation for you, some of the stories we'll be reading later on, or some of the issues we will be talking about in the book, could be quite intense for some of you. If anyone here feels affected, or you feel you want to talk to somebody about this, maybe at the end of the session, just hang around and let me know, and we'll see what we can arrange and do for you. If it's okay with everyone, I'd just like to take maybe just a minute silence for all of us. Just think about perhaps the people we know in our lives whom we've lost in one way or another, not necessarily through suicide, but the people we've lost and the people that we miss. If you could, a minute silence.